Hey guys, welcome back to a mix of Reddit, pro revenge and HOA stories. Imagine living just outside an HOA, minding your own business, when the homeowner association president shows up at your driveway with a full-size semi-truck just to destroy your mailbox over a paint color. That is exactly what happened to me. So I own a house that is on about 3 acres of land just outside of the HOA boundary line. Due to that, I am not an HOA member, and honestly, I couldn't be happier from that fact. I know that might sound harsh, but the things I've heard people within the HOA subdivision say make me glad for it. There was nothing, I guess, insane or wacky about what they would do. They were not like ripping off people's roofs or dumping crates of rats into the yards of those that disobeyed. They just seemed to be really strict, to the point that it was making everybody in that subdivision miserable. I did not pay too much attention since it didn't concern me, so all I really knew is that they were strict about their rules and quick to give out fines to people that didn't listen. Most complaints I heard were people asking the HOA to do certain things like holiday decorations or putting up a basketball hoop and being denied. One rule the HOA had for their members, which is relevant to this story, is a rule they had regarding mailboxes. Yeah, I know, they sound like such interesting people. It must have been a crazy weekend to come up with that one. Anyway, the rule is the following. It's that in addition to all mailboxes following state guidelines, they could only be colored black or gold. And no, sadly, I have no idea where they got those colors from, and no, we are not in Pittsburgh or even Pennsylvania, so it doesn't even match our sports team. Maybe the Karen that runs the HOA thinks those are fashionable colors. My mailbox, meanwhile, is wooden instead of the metal that most people have, and more importantly green. It's also very clear that it was not painted by a professional or a factory machine or whatever. It was just plain wood when we got it. Then me and the kids went kinda crazy, and it shows. Different directions, some spots darker or went over more times than others. It was a fun project though, and I liked spending time with the kids doing it. People would sometimes ask me how I got the HOA to agree to it, but I would just explain that I was actually not within the subdivision, I was outside of it and not part of the HOA. Several people were jealous about that. Now, why does my green mailbox even matter? Well, sadly, a leprechaun or something cool didn't pop out of it. Instead, Karen showed up one day and started scolding me about the mailbox. I had not even formally met Karen, but I knew who she was. She also didn't seem to believe in letting anybody else talk. Karen, even if it was close to the black or gold, I might have overlooked it, but I mean green? That's not even close to our color standards that we allow. It's a pretty serious violation. First of all, that is laughable that she considers this serious. Second, well, I spoke for myself. Me, I can paint my mailbox any color I want. You know that I'm outside of the HOA, right? Not in the subdivision. Karen, well, that shouldn't matter. All homes must comply, or you can be faced with fines. Seriously, that thing is going to lower property values and turn neighbors uncooperative. She left, and if it wasn't for the fact that she was a total Karen, I would have thought she was kidding with me or something. Instead, she started harassing me. Starting only a few days later, she posted flyers right onto my mailbox claiming I was violating rules and demanding I repaint it. She was smart to put the flyer on and not in my mailbox though, because she knew going into my mailbox could get her into trouble. Speaking of legal though, she tried to even tell the mailman that he couldn't deliver to my house since my mailbox was illegal. He just kind of shrugged and delivered my mail anyway because, well, it is his job and illegal to not give me my mail. Even if I temporarily didn't have a mailbox and just had a cardboard box saying put mail here, he would do it. The letters kept coming, threatening me with fines and home liens and anything else that she could say that might scare me into just doing what she wanted. Some might think that I should have changed my mailbox to get her to shut up. I won't blame the people that do that kind of thing. I knew though if I gave her an inch with this, she would take a mile, and the requests to comply would keep getting worse. And yeah guys, let me know in the comments, would you comply with Karen's demands just to have an easier life, so to say, and not get into more trouble? Or would you try and teach this entitled Karen a lesson? Let me know what you would do in the comments, and please don't forget to like the video. Instead though, I just kept a pile of her letters and anything else she sent me. I would also notice her glaring at my house from her car and taking photos. Extra creepy when you remember that I have small children. It could easily look as if she was stalking them to kidnap or something. I heard other people talking about this too, since Karen could not keep her mouth shut, I guess. Some thought that she had totally lost it, while some actually sided with her that I should just change my mailbox since they didn't want their property value lowered. They might have just been convinced by Karen though that it was worse than it really was. A few days later I was out in the yard doing some weeding when I heard a weird sound, like a truck idling and a gravel crunch. I thought maybe someone was dropping off something for me, so I didn't pay it much mind until I saw it. It was a semi, one of those big rig things you really only see on highways. I couldn't figure out what it was for, but by then the semi was at the end of my driveway. I ran up there quick and what I saw was Karen standing by the cab, arms folded, looking like she had won the grand prize and seeing the manager. Her brother-in-law, who apparently does the hauling for a small local outfit, backed the semi up right into my mailbox. It was not a tap or a bump, it was full on. The trailer clipped the post and splintered everything into kindling. The mailbox flew up, the post snapped near the root, and pieces of green paint and wood flying all over the place. It was like bringing a cannon to a gunfight. She did not even want to run away. The deputy showed up and I handed him the pile of flyers she had taped to the box. He looked at it and told me flat out, destroying a mailbox is not just property damage, it's a federal crime. I did not even know that the government had an entire agency just about mail crimes, but sure enough, the next day, a special inspector came by for my statement. He laughed when Karen tried the HOA rules excuse and told her that doesn't give you the right to commit a crime. That line spread fast through the neighborhood and it made her look even worse. Nobody believed the story the two of them tried to tell about why they were even there with a semi, and word traveled fast. Not long after, the local sheriff's department started their investigation and word got back to the HOA board, who called an emergency meeting because it looked bad for them if their own officer was involved in something that could be a federal issue. Does anybody else find it funny how people can be so fast to just swap sides to whoever is winning? That's the main reason I hate town gossip, even though it was working in my favor this time. Most of the time it is hard for me to know if what they are saying should be listened to or just taken with a grain of salt. Maybe that's why towns like mine all over the country have rumors about homes being haunted or people being serial killers. Maybe it's just bored people making things up and gossiping to keep life interesting. Either way though, paperwork was filed and charges were being pressed. Karen was charged with destruction of property and destruction of mail receptacles, which is a federal offense. She faced fines and was ordered to pay restitution for the replacement mailbox and damages, and even worse. The paperwork took a few weeks to process, and in the meantime, the HOA board kicked her off. That meeting was one for the books apparently. The board president told them they didn't need that kind of attention, and she was out faster than she could say compliance. Her brother-in-law's hauling company terminated his employment. The company faced the Department of Transportation investigation for improper use of commercial vehicles. From gossip I heard that he didn't really want to do it, but he owed her a favor. Still, I know she is kind of family, but maybe say no when the favor is something illegal. That can ruin your company. And by the way, I rebuilt my mailbox to look even more ridiculous than before. I got some reclaimed timber and now it was not even really mailbox shaped anymore. It looked kind of insane actually. I let the kids also go nuts with colors. My mailbox now looked like a preschool art project exploded on it, and I wouldn't have wanted any other way. The HOA has been quieter since then. They tried their usual things for a while, but after Karen's mess, they didn't press. They know where the line is now. As for Karen, she moved out of town after the fines and the barbs of gossip made her life a little more complicated. People are not cruel, but they do like consistency. She had been a bully for years, and now the town had a story to tell about how it turns out when you take your anger out on someone else's mailbox. And the next one is a brand new story from r/pro revenge that you don't want to miss, let me tell you. So once upon the before time in 2015, I worked my way through nursing school as a waitress in a restaurant. This restaurant didn't advertise, they prided themselves on word of mouth for their popularity. This is important. I'd been there for several months at this point and had proved myself reliable and knowledgeable enough to help train new waiters, not technically a trainer, but could be relied upon to support new workers once the trainer set them loose. We had one older guy who had just been released. He was a little awkward, little shy and worried about mistakes, absolutely expected, and he was great to work with. On the night of our tale, he was in the section next to mine, easy to keep an eye on and easy to hop in, prop him up when he hit the weeds. This was his first night with his own complete section, weeds would abound, I was ready. What he was not ready for was his first demanding roundtable of about 6 people, 20-somethings with attitude. He came to me worried and confused, saying, "They want XYZ, but I don't think that's on our menu, right? She says we have the ingredients and to just make it, that the other location makes it all the time." And yes, I could have taught him to stand his ground, but nerves and first night with your own section is not the time for this to go over well, so I told him ask the backline and see if they were willing to do it. If not, I would talk to the table. Cooks were fine with it, basically a wrap if I remember correctly, so no problem. From our end, this was apparently the cue for the leader of the table to demand something every time he came to the table. As soon as he brought the last requested item, she needed something else. I thought it was possible and had been keeping an eye on him. Seeing his panicked face, I gave him a nod and started checking in on his other tables, slotting them into my own table cycles, reasons I'm paired with him. This carried on for the entire meal, incredibly needy and demanding his full attention with zero apology or kindness. I made sure to catch him in the back to prepare for possibly getting no tip, but to calm the panic and to remind him I would not be touching the tips from his other tables. Honestly, this poor guy looked like he was about to quit on the spot. This leader was rude and impatient and gave him no space to breathe. I was his emotional support animal at this point, but knowing he was at least twice my age made it even worse for him. The table had come in close to the end of the night and ended up staying past our section's closing, so they were the last table on our side of the restaurant. Perks of closing with a new waiter, getting cut early. That's when he came to me asking how to do an employee discount, and they wanted to use more than one on a single ticket. Was that okay? I was confused. Wait, employee? That is when he shared that he had spent the entire meal berating and making fun of him because 1. She was a trainer at our location, and 2. He was the worst waiter she had ever seen. No wonder the other location made her special meals, and zero surprise he was such a wreck. On top of that, she was claiming there were multiple birthdays in the group, so free cakes all around, and she wants the birthday song immediately. To say I was livid is saying lava is warm. I was ready to throw hands for this poor man. Instead, I told him to prep the cakes, but don't go out just yet. I would get the boss about employee discount. Not needed, we could do it ourselves. But this was such a special case, and I would gather the workers for the birthday song. Managers there were absolutely amazing. We loved each one, and all of them had our backs. Very rare in restaurants, so this is almost the best part. Either way, I gave the front-end boss a quick rundown of the table's antics. Remember the word-of-mouth restaurant mentality? Yeah. Boss was not having a restaurant employee acting so cruelly, even if she wasn't his employee. I asked permission for what I wanted to do. He smiled and gave permission as he grabbed the employee numbers given for discounts, which the trainer would have known could not be stacked, and told me he had a boss-to-boss phone call to make. I then ran to every employee I could grab. Remember, half the restaurant was closing down, so we had several people available, including a dishwasher, and gave them each the fastest explanation of the table and the plan. Then I told the poor nerve-wracked server that we were ready to drop cakes. The crowd that arrived to that 6-person tabletop was honestly the largest we ever had for a birthday song, and I'm pretty confident the largest that restaurant will ever have. We served free cakes in front of every seat, and Lida had the most self-satisfied smirk as we all grinned ecstatically and lined up to sing. And oh, did we sing! We all sang that birthday song as loud as possible. Please do recall they were the last table in the section, and for your imaginings, I should mention this table was in the corner as well, so while we were screaming the birthday song, it was bouncing back from that corner as well, and it was an excruciatingly long song. Their smiles dropped immediately and hands covered their ears as they jumped with the audio onslaught. I know it hurt my ears, and that pain is something that still makes me smile to this day. We all stood there, a giant group, happily screaming our restaurant's special happy birthday song, and it still warms my heart a decade later. More than that though, while we were gathering and planning and destroying eardrums, our boss was making phone calls in the office. And yes, he called her restaurant manager and informed them of her behavior, and no, she didn't get stacked employee discounts, she didn't get her discount at all actually. I know because I was there when she was handed the phone from my front-end manager at the host desk, and when she started to cry and tried to make her excuses for why she should not be fired. But the general manager, one step below owner since this was a small company with very few locations, had already been called and her employee number had been shared, and she was done. I'm not psychic, she could have gone back to her home location and convinced someone to hire her back, anything is possible, but I know that how she treated this poor guy, I know how I told the tale to my boss, and I know the quiet rage he so rarely touched when it was rage. I would have almost given up joining in that screaming song to be able to hear those phone calls. Almost. And the next one is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to move my car to help a woman enter her car when she parked outside the lines? And by the way, Ripe Stars, if you still enjoy these crazy Karen stories, then please don't forget to like the video, post a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. That would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much. So this just happened an hour ago. I, 30 male, went for some quick grocery shopping at a small grocery store. The parking lot is very small, with only about 20 parking spots that are usually all taken. As I was searching for a parking spot, I saw that one was available and quickly realized why. Someone parked their car outside the lines, occupying a small portion of the vacant parking. I have a small car and realized I could still park there provided I get very close to the parked car, blocking their driver's side door, allowing me to comfortably exit through my driver's side door. I want to emphasize, though, that I parked completely within the lines. As I exited my car and headed towards the grocery store, a woman, roughly 40 female, called out to me and asked me to move my car so she can enter hers. I told her that I parked within the lines and that she can enter her car through the passenger side door. She again asked me to move my car and I said no, turned around and entered the grocery store. I then glanced outside to see her struggling to get inside her car and driving off. I wanted to make sure that she does not key my car or anything, and I just want to mention that this woman seemed like she realized that she screwed herself and was not mean or pushy throughout the whole ordeal. As I got home, I enthusiastically told my wife about my pettiness, but she said I was an a-hole for doing that and that I unnecessarily ruined this woman's day. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for refusing to move my car? And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know in the comments what you think about this one. Is OP being the a-hole here or not? And what would you have done in his situation? Comment number 1, NTA, her piss poor parking created the problem, maybe she will try harder next time. Answer to that comment, while this may be true, for all we know there was another car on her other side which had badly parked and she had to park poorly to compensate. Maybe. When people park badly, I always wonder if maybe someone who has since left was actually the party responsible for a chain of bad parking jobs. I would say that you're the a-hole because you have no idea why they parked badly in the first place, including just a simple mistake. If you had the time to stand there the entire time she was trying to get out, then it would not have hurt to just help her out. If I was the party who parked badly enough that I had to ask someone else to move so I could leave, that would have been lesson enough. Another user in the comments said, this is almost too minor to render a judgment, so I'm going to have to go not an a-hole, but ask you to reframe your thinking a bit. I prefer to assume the best of people, and in a small cramped parking lot with limited space, most of the time if somebody is over the line, I'm gonna assume that it was because of pressure from how the neighboring vehicles were parked when they got there, even if those vehicles have since left. While it's not great, it's understandable that somebody would not risk scratching their vehicle or another to stay fully within the lines if somebody is already pushing over the line or whatever. Given that, I would say that yeah, it's probably easier to just back out and be polite to the lady and have a positive interaction than to leave yourself feeling like she is some a-hole who parked badly and her feeling like you're some jackass who blocked her in after she had already had to squeeze into her spot because some giant truck with extended mirrors was blocking her in or whatever the case may have been. And the next one is titled Malicious Compliance. The company I worked for at the time no longer exists, so I don't feel too bad about sharing this story. This takes place in the mid-1990s and I am the sysadmin for a small tech company. We basically did all sorts of things for clients, large and small, but one of the more profitable areas was technical education. Think room after room of PCs for classes and training, companies send us their people, we teach them databases or email serving, mainframe access using terminal emulators, that sort of thing. My immediate manager was an okay sort of guy, but was always looking for ways to cut money from the budget to look better for his superiors. Things like saying, why do you need 4 megs of RAM in the classroom PCs? You can get by with 2. You get the idea. Well, there was a new version of a well-known server operating system out of a company in the Pacific Northwest that was rapidly replacing the older novel installations, and there was great demand for training on this new OS. Let's call it MT. Boss wants us to gear up to teach MT to the companies replacing their older systems. I say great, here are the costs involved with purchasing X copies of the new OS for the classroom PCs. This email went over like a lead balloon. Email back from boss says essentially, no, just use one copy for all the systems. I have the CD-ROM in my office, come get it. I replied that we will be in violation of the license agreement for the OS and we could face penalties. Boss emails back a little testy too, just do what I'm telling you to do. So I wander over to his office and he hands me a hand-burned CD-ROM copy of the OS and the license code on a piece of paper. Not good. Once I'm back in my office, I email him again, reiterating that this is not a great idea and could get the company in serious legal trouble. He says do it or lose my job. Alrighty then, CYA time. I archive the email chain and print off hard copies for safekeeping. Some months go by and classes are rolling in and out of the building every week. All seems quiet and then, due to a totally unrelated issue, the company gets audited. Auditors are everywhere looking for who knows what, but they eventually get to the training area. They quickly see that we do not have license keys for the 30+ systems running the new MT operating system. All hell breaks loose, VPs and CIOs start coming out of the woodwork like roaches. I am called into a meeting with my boss and every boss up the food chain to the CEO of the company. Rarefied atmosphere to be sure, the witch hunt begins. I am raked over the coals for putting the company in legal jeopardy, and what do I have to say for myself before I am terminated for cause? Well, I was doing what I was ordered to do over my objections, etc. I look over to my boss who was as suddenly developed a bad case of Clintonian memory syndrome saying, I have no memory of that. My boss said, I would never authorize breaking the law. Exactly what I was expecting, so I pull out the file folder with the email hard copies and show the boardroom full of executives the conversation. My boss gets red in the face and accuses me of forging the emails to deflect responsibility for this massive violation. Never in his life has he seen something so underhanded, and surely the board can see that he is not responsible for me going off and pirating software for profit. Silence for a moment as everyone in the room stares holes into me. I reach back into my bag and pull out the CD-ROM and license code and ask if he wants it back. Some points to consider: there was only one CD burner in the building attached to the boss's computer. They were still fairly expensive at the time. Only one real copy of the MT operating system had been purchased by the company. By the boss. Lastly, the Sharpie label on the disc and the license key were written in the boss's very distinctive handwriting, on his stationery with his letterhead on it. CIO looks irritated, says I can leave. I go directly back to my office and post my resume on the job boards. Got a new job offer in 2 days. The company was hit with massive fines. They never really recovered and went bankrupt the following year. My old boss though? Well, I went back to the area a few years later and he was selling PCs at Best Buy. No dishonor there, but a rather dramatic drop in pay, I presume. And now we got an Am I the A-hole story. So I need some input on this one. My wife is upset with me about always correcting her grammar. Example, we are watching The Office and my wife says, I bet they will be making money off of this show for the rest of their life. Me, lives. She got angry and then cried and said that I correct her grammar a lot and she finds it condescending and rude and that I'm treating her like a child. I did not see it that way and feel that it's not really out of the norm to correct someone you're close with, especially when it's such a basic mistake. Also, she is a 4th grade teacher, so it's kind of her job to teach others proper grammar. So, am I the a-hole for being a grammar Nazi? Should I just keep my mouth shut? And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know what you think about this one. Do you think OP is the grammar Nazi here or not? Comment number 1 said, I'm an English language teacher and I'm telling you right now that you're the a-hole. Do I hear other native English speakers making grammatical mistakes all the time? Yes. Do I correct them? No, because even though it's my job to teach English grammar, that would make me an a-hole. Do I make grammatical errors when I speak? Yes, because speaking is an in-the-moment task and mistakes occur. Your poor wife. Comment number 2, you're the a-hole. Learn to swallow the need to always be right and always telling people they are wrong. No one likes that, least of all, the person you're supposed to love and respect more than everyone else. Completely understandable why she is not happy with you. Update to the story. So the consensus is that I'm the a-hole. I did apologize yesterday and apologized again this morning, and I will try to stop doing this in the future. Thanks to those who gave constructive feedback. Either way, let's continue with the next revenge story. So one day, many years ago, I got an email addressed to someone who had the same first initial and last name as I do. For the purpose of this story, I will call him G-Man. As with anyone who uses a common email address, think first initial plus last name, you sometimes get an email that is not meant for you. It was mostly incidental things like receipts and the occasional personal email. I was chalking them up to being a data entry error. Perhaps they misheard the email address and instead of typing in gclastname@gmail.com, they typed in glastname@gmail.com. No big deal. In the cases where I could, I would politely reply to the sender and let them know that I was not the intended recipient and to please let G-Man know that he is giving out the wrong email address going forward. It was never successful. I would still get emails for G-Man, and it was for things that I would think you would want to receive, like order receipts or something that had a confirmation number attached to it. I tried to track down G-Man, but to no avail. There were multiple G-Man, last name on social media, so I could never 100% confirm which one it might have been. And so this went on and on for years, until finally one day I got a personal email addressed to G-Man that referenced the company he worked for. Now I had something. I looked him up. It turns out that G-Man is the systems manager at said company. His LinkedIn bio says that he is an IT professional. That's interesting. I find his company email and forward him the email, also advising him that the other address he is using is attached to another person and it would be great if he could be more mindful of what he is typing in or giving out. Again, I was polite in my request to him. He replied and apologized. I thought, it's finally over, but it wasn't over. Oh no, far from it. The emails I received that were addressed to G-Man actually began to increase in volume. Now I'm getting emails for mailing lists and account signups and all sorts of other crap. This guy, this so-called IT professional, is clearly using my email address as his spam dump, knowing that it went to an actual person. I would have to sort through dozens upon dozens upon dozens of emails daily as a result of this, and as we all know, once you're on one mailing list, you tend to end on a lot more mailing lists. By now, I've decided that clearly this clown is deliberately being a jackass, so it is gloves off and game on. I decide to extract revenge at any opportunity. It started out simple enough. If I got an account sign up, I would click the link to verify it and then promptly log in and deactivate the account. It worked for a bit, but then there would be another sign up, so I got more creative. I would log into the account, change all the information and, most importantly, the password, usually to something like "I'm a gigantic a-hole," which would leave the account active but totally inaccessible since any attempt at password recovery sent the email to my account, which was then promptly ignored and deleted. Hotel booking? I would log on and cancel it the day before he was due to arrive. I'm guessing he never got noticed though, since it was all coming to my email. Basically anything I could do that would inconvenience G-Man, I would do it. This back and forth continued on for years. In fact, I still occasionally get emails for the guy, but then one day it happened. I got an email receipt for an order that G-Man had placed. It had the recipient's name and address, but more importantly, it had G-Man's address on it. Cue up, I've got a golden ticket. I finally had the means of the ultimate revenge. I took his address and I signed him up for everything I could find. Free samples, in other words, adult diapers, feminine products and lube, catalogs, normal, not so normal and raunchy, and I spent an entire day finding anything I could enter his address into and dutifully filled it out. But the coup de grace, the cherry on top, when I was finding things to sign up for, I stumbled onto a website that allowed you to order free flooring samples. They would be various sizes, but some were 12 by 12 squares. Carpet, tile, wood, linoleum, whatever, I signed G-Man up for every sample I could find. Then I found another site offering the same thing and I did it again and again and again until the point where I literally lost track of how many free flooring samples I signed him up for. My guess, it was easily in the hundreds, if not thousands. I literally carpet bombed G-Man. Coincidentally, the email volume certainly decreased. I never heard from G-Man either. Maybe he deleted my initial email and forgot, or maybe he was buried under all those flooring samples. Either, I'm sure once they started to arrive, he realized his mistake. I bet that to this day, he still gets items delivered to that address. And the next one is another interesting petty revenge story. This one is titled Grandson Calls from Jail. About twice a year for the past 7 years, I get a phone call from my grandson in jail. I don't have kids, so I've started extending the conversation to waste the scammer's time and save the next person some grief. With one call, I asked him why he was breaking my heart because he promised me when I was sick in the hospital that he was gonna come back to Jesus and stop hanging out with those bad people. Jesus wanted him to not go to jail. Jesus could help him. He promised that he would go to church and be good for Jesus if I sent him $4,000. I told him I would give Jesus the money and Jesus would get it to him then. With another call, I asked him why he ruined Christmas dinner by bringing that gold-digging tart that left his brother right before the wedding. He was never welcome in my home again. I never wanted to see either of them. He admitted that he made a mistake, that she was all wrong for him, and it was her fault that he was in jail. Another call, I asked him if he told the police about what happened at the cabin. I explained that sometimes bad things happen, but it was in the past. We gotta move on. And we didn't even know that what his uncle did, and he couldn't help himself if something did happen. In the last call, he asked for money and I reminded him he had stolen my car and my jewelry. I didn't have anything left other than my Beanie Baby collection that was gonna be worth a fortune next year. I just needed to figure out how to get them on eBay. And yeah guys, thank you for watching. Don't respond to any grandson calls from jail and I will see you again tomorrow.